It's not happening.
You don't like the microwave brain theory? Yeah.
I think not. I think I'm going to have to pass on that.
I used to work at Verizon Wireless in Walnut Creek, and so I maintained their computer network around there. We had this lab, and all there was cellular test equipment. And so they'd sit there and go, "Hey, go troubleshoot a port down in the lab." Well, why me? Because nobody else will go down there. Well, why not? Well, that's where they had all these transmitters and these big old microwave, thingies that the scientists used. And I was fool enough to do it once. I wouldn't go back then. I don't know. Maybe it's just paranoia.
How are you?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. At 7 o'clock, I call the meeting to order. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Welcome to the June 4th version of the regular meeting of the City Council of the City of Fredericksburg. I'm going to jump to item number 7 as we consider the appointment of the Gillespie County Health Board. We had a vacancy there and we're filling an unexpired term. So Kelly, if you will, Kelly Olvers, our county senator, what do you call him? Okay. What is your official job title?
The official job title in the cooperative agreement is Director of Gillespie County Health Division.
Okay, Director of the Gillespie County Health Division, Kelly Olvers is going to speak.
Okay, you're correct. We have had one board member that needed to resign due to health problems, and I had one application, Jennifer Bryla. I felt that both with her legal background and also with her restaurant affiliation that she would be a good asset to the board. So I am recommending board or appointment to the Gillespie County Health Board for that term, which will expire at the end of this year. And then the intent is for her to go through the approval process again this fall when we do our normal board appointments.
Fill in the gap a little bit about who she is.
Jennifer Bryla, she is a local attorney, and she and her husband also own Bayhouse Restaurant. She's expressed, and she wants to get involved. I think she and her husband, it's my understanding that they move outside the city limits, and this is a chance for her to participate in some sort of board and be active in the community and still live outside the city limits.
So she initiated her own application?
Correct.
Okay. Council?
I move we approve the appointment as presented.
I'll second that.
Motion second. Any further questions or discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And unanimously approved.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. By the way, audience, there is a place on the new website for anyone who can pass this information along who wants to apply for any of the city boards. They can do that anytime, 24/7 on the website for any of the health board, or I guess it'd be considered for one of the commissions and so forth, P&Z and so forth. So that's a good way to put your name forward and initiate an application. All right, we'll go on now to number 3. Thanks, Kelly. Number 3 is consider request for the closure of Adams Street during Oktoberfest. This is a revisit of a previous visit. Debbie Farnborg-Garner, who is the festival director for the Oktoberfest.
Good evening. Thank you for inviting me back this evening. I'm Debbie Farnborg-Garner, the manager of Oktoberfest. I was here 2 weeks ago requesting an approval for the closure of Adams Street this year to see what that does to assist us in aiding what we were requested last year as more seating. Any questions?
Well, we were asking about the school traffic last time, potential rerouting buses and that sort of thing, since you'll be involved in 2.5 school days. What'd you find out?
Paul had a discussion with Dr. Williamson, and he so approved the request.
Okay with him?
Yes. He said just to remind him when he gets a little bit closer, he'll talk to the bus driver or the lady in charge of the bus driver.
Okay, any other questions, council? Any further clarification?
Debbie, the only thing that I'm concerned about is going down the road that the festival look at the possibility that if it's going to continue to grow and we're going to need to encroach on the streets or encroach in other areas, there may be a consideration there for moving it to another location. I think that this is a viable plan for now, but I think in the long run, as this continues to grow, that we're going to find even this not to be as feasible as we would like. And just as a thought, that I hope that there's some consideration there, because I don't know that it's going to be good for us to expand that beyond where we've already gone.
That is correct, and we have discussed this at our advisory committee level for Oktoberfest, and if we do get approved this evening, we are very appreciative so that we can look at it during our peak time this year to see how it is holding the crowds, the additional seating that we've provided.
Outstanding. Thank you.
Another option to consider, Debbie, that I know has been brought up to you, is that if you feel the need in the next few years to continue an expansion to provide more seating, to really look hard at the Austin Street opportunity or option that might be less disruptive to regular traffic.
That is true. That has been brought up. It's been brought to my attention after making this request 2 weeks ago. It is also something we did study prior to requesting Adams Street. We can certainly look at that, and we are open every year to look at whatever council wants us to. Our goal and our pleasure, since Oktoberfest has invested so much on Market Square, is to remain on Market Square. But we can only do what we can do, and we want to work in cooperation with the city, the mayor, and its council.
Anybody been good about that, especially your office and in festivals and so forth? It's just that we're wondering, and this is just a wonder, we're wondering if your choice may ultimately come down to we will grow bigger or we will remain at Market Lot.
That's a great question. As I stated 2 weeks ago, our 2 years growth in 2010 and 2011 didn't really caught us, well, it did catch us by surprise a little bit. We really grew. And as I mentioned, when we were planning for 2011 after our growth spurt in 2010, I really did not expect to see the numbers again, and we did. We might very well see the numbers again in 2012, and we might grow even more. And if so, we will take a good look. And one thing that I do want to do, and I will keep this an open invitation, I would like to invite the city manager, the mayor, and the council to do a tour with me and my Oktoberfest advisory committee during the thick of things, during Oktoberfest. So we can do a walkthrough study together, and we can look at the grounds together. There might be a solution or an alternative idea that you see that I don't, since I'm so close to it. And so that is something I would like to keep an open door for to invite you.
Very commendable. I, for one, will take you up on that opportunity. Other questions or questions?
Move that we approve the street closing as requested.
I'll second that.
All right, I've got a motion and second to approve the closing as requested. Any further discussions or questions? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you, Debbie.
Thank you very much.
We'll be anxious to hear how it all goes.
Oktoberfest appreciates this. Thank you.
All right, we've got a couple of items about the swimming pool. Number 4 is to consider approving the pool design contract. Jimmy, I'd appreciate it if you'd run us through this. Yeah, I've been asked to ask everybody to go to the podium so we have a good verbal record of everything.
I'll just go over the summary and recommendation and background analysis. When the two pool bonds were passed, as they were in May, we now have the charge of going forward with that, and the first part of that is to get the design firm on board to get started. The pool committee, as everyone knows, the pool committee did the basic conceptual plans, and now a design team will take that from there. Back in late 2010, we went through that process, did the request for qualifications, and received about 20 firms provided RFQs. Out of those 20 firms, we narrowed it down to 4. Those 4 firms came in and did presentations to the city council at that time, and Kimley Horn was the firm selected. The firm of Kimley Horn includes the engineering firm of Councilman Hunsaker, and between the two of them, they do a lot of municipal work, like you see in your memo. They've done projects for Brownwood, Cedar Park, Baytown, Round Rock, and Temple. And the city manager and I have negotiated with them for this project, and we're recommending them to continue with the design. This is for the next item, by the way. Sorry.
There's some concern of delay of the whole project if we go through the RFQ again, right?
Right.
The whole process of planning.
If we start the process over, it'll add about at least 6 to 8 weeks to the project, and having a town pool open next summer would not be possible. It's going to be tight to get it done, even if we continue with Kimley Horn at this point. And so that goes into the recommendation also. But part of it is that we've gone through the process. They were selected. We were working well with them until the issue got recalled, and we went through the process we did. So now we're back to that point, and we feel like we can continue with them. And let me add one other thing to that in talking about the town pool. As a staff, when we talked about the next steps to take after the bond elections passed, we felt like it was real important to have the town pool open next summer, to show the citizens something for what they approved. And since that one was approved overwhelmingly, it was a 3 or 4 to 1 vote, we felt like we needed to get that one designed, get it built, and get it open next summer.
Is this amount included in the bond?
Yes. Right.
Bond.
Yeah, the bond issue was for 1.4 for the town. Yeah, the 1.4 for the town pool and the 1.8 for the park pool are firm numbers that Kimley Horn's aware of, that they have to design to. They have to design to those numbers, including their fees. And that's been made clear to them. And again, they do a lot of municipal work, so that's nothing new to them. But they've got a target that they've got to hit with those numbers, and the city manager and I had several conversations with them about that, about how firm those numbers are. I mean, these aren't just numbers that we budgeted; they're numbers that were voted on.
Ken, could I ask you a question as a person who's done this before in other places, I'm sure? When you have these kinds of projects, there are a lot of businesses out there, I'm sure, they're anxious to do consulting phases and so forth. How do you vet them? I mean, what are you looking for primarily? And obviously, you felt that this one had been sufficiently vetted.
Basically, this is a pretty unique project, municipal pools, and you're looking for firms that have direct experience working with communities on swimming pool construction. They could have a lot of other construction experience, but this takes a special expertise. So looking for experience, certainly availability in our case, since we're trying to move forward on the town pool pretty rapidly, we would be looking for somebody that has a staff that can get this project going as soon as possible. And then we just basically check their references, and if they do have some poor experience in one or two communities, usually word will get around. I know Jimmy's very active in the State Parks and Recreation Association, and this particular firm has an excellent track record with other parks and recreation directors around the state. So you look at, again, experience, availability, and the track record.
Well, the nuts and bolts, folks, of the contract is that this is a two-part contract, or one for town pool and one for park pool. But they're both the same amount of bid, and it's 167?
167.
167,000 for each one.
Correct.
And for that, I won't go through a lot of it. There is basic services, but the construction documents, the design development, construction documents, the construction document, bidding phase services, construction phase services. All of these are things that staff and manager are aware of what they mean as they get deep down. But the recommendation is to approve Kinley Horn, their office from Irving, to take us through this process. Okay, council, question?
Maybe could I just add one thing, just for clarification. Now, Kimberly Horn will be the lead firm. Certainly, they'll have 11 subs that will be involved in this. The mechanical and engineering is a major component of this. So this money isn't all for design services. It's for special services that will be involved.
Is it fair to say that Kimley Horn has got some proprietary information that they have developed in the early stages of this process that would have to be reinvented? Should we decide to pick another firm? Or some work that would have to be redone?
I don't know about
Or have they given us deliverables to where we could go pick another firm, hand them the stuff and say, this is what Kimley Horn's done to this point?
I wouldn't characterize it as being anything proprietary. I think what we've gotten in the first round with them could be handed over to somebody, but in addition to that, I would also say that they're familiar with what we've got with our situation at both pools. They had already done some legwork before. I think probably if anything, the speed of getting to the end product would be a big advantage.
How much of this 167,000 in each pool is going to be rework of what was already done when they did the previous work for us?
Not much. I mean, there was some geotechnical stuff that was done early that we can reuse. Otherwise, it was a whole different plan.
Well, I know the plan was different, but again, the geotechnical and some other aspects of the layout of the land and on both the town pool and the park pool were both done.
Other than just general familiarity, I mean, it wasn't like they did any design work that we're really reusing.
I think the question is, have we spent some money we're going to need to re-spend? That's the concern, I think.
I don't know that that's the case, because the conceptual work since then has been done by the pool committee. So they're going into this firm or any firm would be going into it with those concepts already done.
Doesn't that mitigate some of the cost of what Kimley Horn's going to be doing for us?
And they're aware of that. They took
But,
that
and
into
that's my biggest concern is they spent so much time and they put so much effort. I'd hate to think that their work would have to be reinvented to carry us forward. And we'd be paying a consultant for what the pool committee did.
Well, I mean, before they made this proposal, they were sent the concepts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jimmy, I would ask you a question if I were just out in the audience and I didn't know much about consulting. I mean, I don't know a lot, but I'm always surprised at how many there are and how much they charge and that sort of thing. But I know there's a specialty field, but just as an information question, why can't we get this done in-house? What would you say to that? Get this kind of specialty work, Ken, I don't know anybody. I'm not trying to trap you, I'm asking on the I know why. I want you to be able to say why.
In-house as in somewhere here in Fredericksburg, or in-house as in the city staff?
City staff, somebody already being paid.
Yeah, nobody on city staff is qualified to do this work.
It's such a specialty issue.
Right.
None of you have ever built a swimming pool.
Well, and keep in mind, the safety of our patrons is one of our utmost priorities on this, and designing pumps and electrical systems that are safe. You know, again, we're going to be using the best firm in the business, and I think that can be reassurance to our citizens that it will be not only a functional facility, but a very safe facility.
That's all I have.
Jimmy, one last thing, if you don't mind. I heard you say that Kimley Horn is very much aware of the $1.4 and $1.8 limitations. They are very, very clear that as far as this council member is concerned, and I'm sure others as well, that there will be no overages. And I noticed in their proposal, I guess it's part of their standard contracts, they put in there that they'll bid out 10% below and 10% above. And I just want to make sure that we're all abundantly clear that the citizens have voted and we're not going over that.
They are, and they do that so that to take advantage of the fluctuations in the bidding market, because they'll have some ad alternates that we can add if the bids come in low. If they come in over, we can cut some things out. But if you look at the paragraph prior to that, and again, the city manager and I had several discussions with him about the wording of that to make everybody aware. If the sentence in the paragraph above that says the fixed budget established for this project has been set at 1.8 for Lady Bird Johnson Park. So to answer your question, yes, they're clear.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. I think we all pretty much feel that way. Question, procedure, Kent or Jimmy, approving this Kimley Horn proposal, does that commit ourselves to their schedule as well?
I think the schedule is somewhat flexible. Again, until they dive into the project, they can't really tell exactly what the schedule is. But again, we've told them we want to try to get Town Pool open by next summer, and they understand that. So the schedule you have in front of you, I think, is very doable, particularly if the council passes action on the contracts tonight.
Okay. Probably the one thing I'd add to that is that it's correct. The schedule is somewhat flexible, and you're going to see in there a public meeting date in like next week or in June. That's we know we're going to have to push that a little bit further.
We'll have the meeting, but not on the 13th.
Probably not. No.
All right. But we will. But the whole idea is to get the pool built, ready for children to jump in by next summer.
The town pool.
The town pool. Right. Okay. Okay, council.
I move that we approve Kimley Horn as the consultant for the construction of both the town pool as laid out in our agenda and the park pool.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve this proposal on both pools at $167,000 each. Any further questions or discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Speaking of pools, item number 5 is consider the closure of the 100 block of East Schubert Street at Town Pool. Jimmy?
Well, one of the things that came out of the pool committee work that they did was the idea of the possibility to expand the town pool by closing a portion of Schubert Street. And they recommended it and asked the city to consider that. Well, so that's what we did. Once both the bond issue got passed, city staff got to work and started weighing out the pros and cons of that closure of that street. We contacted neighbors that would be affected by it. We looked at things like utilities and parking and traffic flow and those kind of things. And when we weighed out the pros and cons of that issue, we're recommending not to close the street for several reasons. When you look at the advantages, the basic two advantages that you gain by that are additional deck area and additional green area. The size of the pool stays the same, and so really what you're just gaining is area around the pool, which we're already getting with the land directly to the west. So those are the two advantages. The disadvantages are that with the closure of that street, and you're going to have additional costs and additional development costs. When we spoke with the neighbors, we had one that was opposed, and we had one that was concerned. And probably, and when you look at the additional area that we're already gaining with the land that we already own adjacent to it, the lot, and I'm going to step around here, but this is the town pool site as it is. This property here was purchased back during the Market Square development to get us points through Parks and Wildlife with a connection up to the middle school. So we purchased this property. Well, that's going to have to be maintained because of that Parks and Wildlife agreement. But the lot itself is 42 feet wide total here. So even if we maintain a 12-foot pathway here, we still gain 30 feet by 200, which gains us an additional 30% to the site for additional deck space and green area. And all those reasons were reasons why we felt like it didn't really make sense to do, but probably the clinching reason was that both bonds passed. Had the town pool been the only one that passed, and the idea would be that one would be maybe the only pool we would have for the long-term future, it may have been more important to take in Schubert Street and gain that additional property for future expansion or for whatever. But when both pools passed, we felt like that in addition to the other things that I've just mentioned, made our recommendation not to close it.
Mayor, if I could just add, one of the reasons this is so critical for the council to decide tonight is this decision has a direct bearing on the design of the layout of the pool. And so with Kimberly Horn being hired as the firm, we need to turn this project over to them as far as the dimensions of the site. And so that's why we brought this to the council so quickly after the election.
Is there any particular reason why that 12-foot pathway needs to be on the west side?
No.
I mean, is there any advantage to offsetting it, moving it to the east? I mean, I don't know, Danny, I'm just saying, I know it's got to be there, but are we married to the west side?
No. It just has to be.
I have nothing in mind that would move it either way, I'm just asking.
We just have to have connectivity to the middle school because of the Parks and Wildlife agreement.
It seems to me there would be an issue there, Tim. If it were moved more to the east, it would become part of the pool plan, wouldn't it? I mean, part of the reason that you want that 30 feet is to be able to expand the site for more pool area instead of taking up Schubert. If you've got that walkway through there, that would seem like that'd be a design issue. It might be a problem for where you're going to put the pool and the amenities go around the green space or whatever goes around it. I'm just saying that may be one of the reasons why it needs to stay on the west.
I think more significantly, its direct shot into the junior high, the middle school property, is even more telling, since that was the purpose behind it to begin with. Jimmy, I'm sorry, do you want to say something else?
And it also forms something of a barrier between the pool property and the adjacent property.
Exactly.
to the west.
Jimmy, if you don't mind, I have a couple quick questions about this. One of the things that concerns me when this was brought up was when the pool committee brought their recommendation to the council. This was put before the citizens. It was put on a board and it was shown. We had an open house in 2 days of those. It was put in the paper. It was discussed at length in open council. And at that point, unless something didn't come and I missed something, gentlemen, maybe Graham, you and Tim could educate me if I missed something, there was no mention of an issue with the closure of Schubert Street at all from the community. Even the ones that came, that the one gentleman who spoke against the pool in general didn't even have a comment against the closing of Schubert Street. I'm a little concerned that one of the reasons that that was originally planned, and when I talked with Linda Longer-Hans and other members of the pool committee, they stated that the concern was that there was not enough parking because of the city requirements for parking with the changes that we were going to instigate here, that made that change to Schubert Street even more advantageous because it allowed for that extra parking. It allowed for us to meet the needs and requirements of the code. If we are to eliminate that option, we're back to where we were with the original property, and I was told when this all started that that was not feasible. What's changed now?
Well, I think first of all, I personally don't agree with the statement that by closing off Schubert Street, we gain parking.
That was what was brought up.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
I know, and I remember that discussion and that, but there's 14 parking places there now that we'd lose, that we'd have to replace just to get back to where we're at right today. So I don't necessarily agree with that statement that there, but the other part of the discussion with the pool committee that we had during the pool committee meetings, not at the city council meetings, but the pool committee meetings. I remember distinctly that recommendation came from a subcommittee within the pool committee. And I remember when it came to the pool committee to discuss that idea, it was clear that it wasn't a make or break proposition. In other words, it was something that needed to be considered, and it would be something that would gain us additional space, and everybody agreed to that. But that if it didn't happen, it could still be built on the property that's on, again, gaining the property to the west. And I think the other part of that, and I can't speak for the pool committee, and if there's any of them here, they can speak to that better than I can. But I would feel like at that time, they didn't have any idea that both pools would pass. And again, if we'd have known back then that both would pass, I'm not so sure how strong of a recommendation that would have been. But again, I'm not speaking for them, but I feel like that was a big part of how their discussion went.
Well, my problem with that is I think both pools need to be separate from one another in our consideration of how they're going to be built. And if we approved, or the community approved $1.4 million to build Town Pool, and their conception was what the pool committee brought forward, if they looked in the paper or they came to the meetings, they were well aware of what they were voting for. And to alter it now just because Park Pool passed doesn't seem like a logical argument for changing the whole conception, especially if there is a potential. And again, I would love to be further informed if I'm missing something here, but I was told point blank back when we were dealing with the original pool plan, the one that was supposed to be a Ladybird, that would not work. That there were codes, there were regulations, there were things in the city charter and so forth and so on that were going to eliminate any possibility of building on that property alone. And that's where my ultimate concern here is if we say, okay, you know, a couple people complained we're not going to do Schubert Street, then somebody's going to come back and say, well, guess what? Well, now we can't build Town Pool. And I don't want to be in that position.
Scott, let me just respond to that because Jimmy and I talked to Linda about 2 days after the election because we knew this was going to be an issue forthcoming. And her feeling was the pool committee did not recommend the closure of this street. They recommended that the city council consider the closure of this street. And, she said there were some committee members that were in favor of it, some that were against it. But she just wanted, before we jumped into the design of the pool, she wanted to have a full hearing and full consideration of this. And that's basically what we've been doing over the last couple of weeks and what we're doing this evening. So again, they did not take a formal position in her mind to close this street.
But that was the plan that was presented to the community. And my point goes back, it's not so much Shepard Street I'm worried about, it's getting that built.
I got you. The thing I would add to that is that the concept isn't going to change. When you talk about whether or not we close Shepard Street or not, the concept that the pool committee came up with is going to stay the same. It's just that it would be expanded. It would be a little bit bigger version of it that would have an additional deck space and additional green area. The pool itself, the tot pool, the bathhouses, all that stuff, all the development stuff stays the same with that exception. So I wouldn't characterize it myself as being that the concept is changing.
Let me, because I'm not sure that debate will be settled in the next couple of minutes with this. But let me ask first, Jimmy, if there's anybody here to speak to this issue. Yeah, okay. Jimmy, Lily, and Joe, and Russ, and Warren. Okay.
I'm Jimmy Lucas, and I live here in the city, and I was on the pool committee. I think the one thing that y'all are missing, y'all are trying to discuss this in an isolated instance of a particular pool. Well, the reason why we recommended the closing of Shepard Street was that we had a master plan concept of developing this where the town pool would be part of the market plots, part of the Nimitz, part of the creek, and that's what we wanted y'all to address. So there's never an idea of doing it simply for parking, simply for the look of that area. It was a totality. We wanted you to address the complete issue.
Jimmy, that was going to be my next point.
Yeah, and that's what
on
I
that
think
list.
y'all are missing. You're trying to discuss it and just isolate instances. I think that's important.
Sorry, I missed that altogether, Jimmy. Try that on me again. What are we missing?
When we first talked about the pool ground, we discussed this different ways of doing the town pool. And we never really talked about town pool being a separate entity of Lady Bird. We weren't trying to decide whether we only built one pool, would it accommodate everything. The main issue that we were dealing with was the town pool represented a certain faction or a certain image in our community, and that we'd like to see it tied into market plots, to the creek, to Nimitz. The whole thing would become we have a 206 master plan that was originally done, where there was a green belt and so forth. And so we utilized that to try to make it where it became part of a master plan. Okay. And so I think that I understand that Joel's discussion and everything, it all makes sense, it makes perfect sense about the cost of clothing, shoes, and everything else. But Joel might not have understood that that was the original concept that we wanted Joel to delve into, was the idea of a master plan.
But why is Schubert so critical to
Oh, I'm not saying it is. No, Graham, I think that's the part. I think Linda's comment to Mr. Myers is correct. We weren't sold on it. It's not like that was a deal breaker one way or the other, but we wanted it to be addressed in the concept of a complete plan. And that's it. That's really the only thing y'all are missing on this discussion right here.
Okay. Joe?
Hello, good evening. I'm Joe Cloud. I own the property to the west on Schubert Street. Just a couple of points of clarification. I did come to the meeting that was held here to discuss the closing of Schubert Street, and I did express concerns that evening during Linda Longahan's presentation. I expressed concerns about closing Schubert Street and asked why that needed to be done. I was told during that meeting that it was nothing but conceptual and nothing had been done yet. It was purely one concept of what could be done and not to worry about it. And that was what was said in the meeting that evening. So what I asked specifically after asking about the closure of Schubert was, what was it that the pool committee hoped to gain? And the answer was they wanted green space, park space for the city to enjoy. If you look at the plan that was up that night, the conceptual plans that were up that evening, those plans had decking coming out across Schubert Street with pool furniture and everything else for the pool, and then some green space. If you go and take a look at the pool now, you'll see that you have to have a very high security fence all the way around the pool. So what we're talking about doing is closing a through street in the middle of town for green green space for 3 months out of the year. That the rest of the year will be high fenced and the community will not be able to enjoy. And oh, by the way, if you want to enjoy that green space, that public pool space in the summer, or the public park space that we're creating by closing Schubert in the summer, you have to pay an admittance fee to go into the pool. It's not just open parkland. We're not talking about creating another market plaza in the middle of Schubert. It's a fenced off pool. So I just wanted to address the fact that, and you know, I've never been against the pool. I was a supporter of the pool in this location from day one. I do have a very big concern about closing Schubert Street. 90% of my business comes down that street from this side.
Joe, let me ask you a question. You said that in the meeting you attended, it was communicated to you that this was merely conceptual and it would have to be revisited by council seventh. Was that said as part of the public meeting or to you privately?
It was said as part of the public meeting.
Thank you.
Here we are today. Thank you, John. Thank you.
Mike Rose, city record, now on the committee. Schubert. The only reality, and we had a lot of discussion, and Jimmy's ideas were expressed, my ideas were expressed, we had a lot of discussion about Schubert Street. Basically, we were looking for more parking, expanding the pool area. We also talked about trying to get some Turner Hall parking on that side. But the upshot was that there's plenty of parking because you can park over the school grounds. Parking turned out to be not a problem. Therefore, Schubert kind of died away as far as most of us on the committee were concerned. However, the idea that Jimmy expressed was also expressed by a lot of the people on the design committee about sometime in the future, that's supposed to be a green walking area and things of this nature, which is supposedly planned somewhere. But we, as a design committee, we're not really firmly committed that you've got to do this, that you have to close that street. That was never part of our agreement.
Russ, can I just ask you a quick question?
Yes, ma'am.
The whole drawing, design of the pool is still a concept. I mean, there can be, you envision there could be changes to it.
We expect that.
Yeah.
In fact, as Jimmy explained, if the bids come in higher than what we expect, then I and a couple other fellows who were on the design team are going to get involved in trying and figure out what we're going to do to cut the cost, but at the same time provide the maximum utilization of the pool.
Thank you.
Thank you, Russ. Warren? Steve? Somebody?
Hey, so I believe with the closure of the street, and I understand your concerns, Scott, right? The perception that people thought that closing the street is out there and it's open. But I do believe that you're kind of rolling your sleeves up for a fight in the community, because closing that street will affect an awful lot. You're changing traffic patterns and you're going to piss off a lot of people, and that'll bring us right back to this, a bunch of signatures on a ballot coming back going, stop. So, my 2 cents.
Steve, I've had your comments. I'd prefer you control your language a little better. You have public people here, and that may be the way you like to talk privately, but not in this meeting.
I'm not sure aware of which comments, but I'll review them and take that under
Listen to
advisement.
the tape if you're making it.
I understand, and I apologize for any offense.
Thank you. Warren?
I'm Warren Berg, president of the Turner Hall, which is the neighbor to the east. We are concerned by closing Schubert Street. The throughway that is there right now is owned by the Turner Hall already. It would be infringing extra parking and stuff on our property, which we already give up for school picking up their kids. There's parents that ask us to move our vehicles that they can park better there already. And I would be concerned that if we close that street, they're gonna tell us we can't park next to it. But anyhow, it is a throughway, and it is originally, the property was sold to the city by the Turner Hall because the Turner Hall was the original athletic club in Fredericksburg. This going back to before I was born in the 1900s, or 1800s, late 1800s when that was open. But anyhow, my concern is to keep on infringing further and further. building. We're trying to keep it up, we're trying to rebuild it, needs a lot of maintenance. But if we close that, it's going to infringe on our benefit that we have, because we cannot no longer run traffic through that street. Plus, safety for the kids alone. You put a U-turn in every street, you're going to lose your parking that you gained. Because you need room for the people to turn around and pick their kids up. Plus, adding parking, you're going to lose everything that's on Schubert Street. So as far as parking, I question very greatly that you would be gaining anything for parking. And to me, the green area, if we can keep that on the west side, I think that would be ample enough, as long as the park or the pool itself is not growing anyhow. The people are not going to be probably there enjoying it as much. People nowadays don't spend time with their kids. So that is another reason I'm so happy that we're going to put a pool back in for our kids, because we have nothing in Fredericksburg other than baseball or soccer for kids. So as far as on behalf of Turner Hall, we would sure like you all to address not to close Schubert Street, please.
Thank you, Wayne. I'm unclear about something. I hear a lot of, and I don't mean this in a derogatory way, a lot of warm fuzzy talk about connecting to market plots, connecting to green belts, et cetera. In other words, taking Schubert Street because it somehow had a better design feature for connecting. How in the world is that connected? In what lingo or capacity is that connected to market plots? Jimmy, I'm asking you if you've heard it. If you've heard that concept, or anybody in the room, is there anybody?
I heard it from the pool committee. I'm kind of like you. I don't see the connectivity necessarily where
it's 3 blocks away.
Both the Parks and Wildlife grant, Jimmy.
Well,
That's what it's all about.
Well, no, I don't think that's what Jimmy Lucas and the pool committee are.
That's where the word connectivity comes from when we talk about it based on the.
Okay, well, that I can address. When we were developing Market Square basically is a very passive park. There's not a lot of activity related. There's a playground there, but beyond that, it's picnicking and very, very passive type of recreation. And to get points, there's a point system to get these grants. To get points, we had to have something more active, like ball fields, soccer fields, those kind of things. And so making a connection to the middle school where some of that stuff existed got us those points that we needed. So that's where that connectivity from Market Square through this property where the adjacent to the town pool did that for us. But that's just that. I mean,
okay, I know you're not responsible for that. I'm just asking if I've got this right. So in P&W's mind, the connectivity points are sufficient, or the qualification is sufficient by creating a walkway through a pool that's 2.5, 3 blocks away from Market Square.
Well, the connectivity continues beyond that. When you
okay, is connectivity simply a walking path?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So
it travels. You know, it comes across here and it goes back behind this development here. There's a little walk bridge, a little part of the path bridge.
I thought they were walking out in the curve.
It goes from the corner of Austin and Crockett across the bridge, around the building on the corner, along the creek.
Who knew? I had no idea. I'm sorry. All y'all knew. Y'all knew. Well, I'm sorry.
That's what those fancy white papers are over there along that.
Okay, I'm sorry. I apologize for not knowing, but I was wondering what the heck is connectivity?
Honestly, it was a way to help us get enough points we had to get to be able to get that grant money.
I guess the reason I noticed it was just all the people that are on it. I know, I know. Okay, I just didn't get the connectivity to Market Square, but there actually is a walk path. Sorry.
Because I am.
You're ready to go over this. All right. All right. Yes, Graham, I'm ready.
All right, I move that we ask Kimberly Horn to develop the town pool on a site which is 130 by 200, and it does not involve the closure of Schubert Street.
Second.
I have a motion and second to leave Schubert open as the design goes into process. Any further questions or comments?
One last question. Jimmy, the only question that I had from the beginning of this whole thing, the only reason I had an issue with it, can we build town pool on that lot without an issue?
Without, what
Without
type,
an issue.
what type of an issue?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not talking about unforeseen disasters. I'm talking about with a city code or any other municipal issue that might come up. Can it be built on that property?
That'd be probably more of a question for Brian as far as any code, any parking or any other code issues. None that I know of.
Well, it's impossible to answer that question if there's anything, because we haven't seen the final plan. We were basing all of I based all of my conversations with the committee that I met with on just purely the what-if kind of scenario. If they go back and contain everything within the existing pool area and really aren't expanding the facility and the buildings themselves, then the parking is really a moot point. Because what's there is there. It's only when you start expanding the space in the usable area that parking becomes an issue. And we did talk about there really isn't any more physical space to add parking, and that was where the joint use kind of thing came in, which would have been available either through the middle school or through the Turner Hall property, which is still a possibility and it still gets used. But I wouldn't anticipate there being a parking issue with not closing Schubert Street.
Well, and I appreciate that, Brian. Again, my concern is when this plan was brought up before, and we had the original vote going before the community for what was going to be down at Lady Bird Johnson, that was the argument that was used, was we could not do any reconfiguration to that site. We could only build what was there. We could repair or redo what was there. But if we changed it in any way, shape, or form, it was going to enact certain regulations, certain rules that would not fit on that property, and therefore that was an unusable site. And that's what I want to make sure that is not the case. Okay?
I never said that.
Okay.
Our office never said that.
Well, the greater question for me is, can we get the pool that the public wants for the money we approved without closing Schubert? And your testimony is?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Thank you. Don't be sorry. Just because I wanted to know about connectivity. You know, obviously I've got a lot to learn about it. There's a walking path there. There's no bike path there.
Oh, no, yeah, you ride on.
All right, number 6, consider approving resolution adopting ACOG regional multi-hazard plan. This item was brought up from our emergency services director, Culpepper. Get the lights back on.
So I'm here tonight representing the Hazard Mitigation Committee for the City of Fredericksburg. We're seeking council's approval to adopt a resolution approving the Alamo Area Council of Governments Regional Hazard Mitigation Plan. This is an updated plan that was last approved by the City Council in 2004. The city's Hazard Mitigation Committee has been working on this plan since October of 2010. The plan identifies documents, potential mitigation opportunities within the city of Fredericksburg and Gillespie County. It focuses on the reduction of risk to loss of life, injury, and property damage from natural or human-caused disasters. The plan also identifies projects suitable for future federal funding should that funding become available, and addresses past issues that were caused by natural or man-made disasters. The plan itself is 1,042 pages long and can be viewed online. The plan was under review by FEMA for a year and is now ready for final approval and adoption. We asked the public for comment for the plan through 5 different avenues between the 16th of May and 30th of May of this year. No comments were received. The city's Hazard Mitigation Committee met on the 31st of May to consider any public comments and recommended approval for city council adoption. So, council, the committee recommends that the city council approve the resolution adopting the Alamo Area Council of Governments Regional Mitigation Plan.
Council? Questions?
Mr. Culpepper?
Yes, sir.
Are we required by any mandate before the federal or state government to approve this plan?
So the only mandate is that we maintain our emergency operation plan at an advanced level in order to be eligible for any federal or state funding. Currently, we are at an advanced level. This will be appendix number 2 to Annex P, which is our hazard mitigation plan. And so in order to maintain our eligibility for grant funding through the state and through the federal government, we need to adopt this plan.
Is there anything in this plan that directly impinges upon the private rights of citizens of the community as far as the federal government having or local government having the ability to come in and dictate how they conduct their daily business as a result of this?
No, sir. In the event of a disaster, the mitigation funds would become available.